Welcome to the Contrarians. Tonight's topic, first 3 concert experiences. We're going back in the time machine, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk to the panel. We want to hear from you. What are your first 3 concert experiences? Let's do it. Welcome to the Contrarians. And tonight we have yet another topic suggested by the Elder of Rock. Look at him down there all smug and full of ideas. We don't have any more ideas. We all go to the Elder for our show ideas. But he, again, came up with this topic for this show. And so what we're talking about, this one's a fun idea, though. We're going to do our first 3 concert experiences. So this will be fun because a lot of these guys, we might have talked a little bit about this, but I probably haven't heard any of these. And I've talked about mine over and over again, but we'll see. We'll see how we go on time. So we've got 3. We're going to start out with the Elder of Rock, since he started this whole mess, and then go to Dave, Butch, and then Dan, and then me, and keep it loose. All right. So welcome, panel. Nice to see you tonight. Thanks for doing this. There you go. So, Elder.
Yes.
What was it with this topic that burned into that you needed to bring this out and share with the panel?
I think there was, I might even have thought of that topic. There was a topic we did recently about first 3 bands you got into. And then I thought, well, wonder what the first 3, maybe you can expand on that, and first 3 concert experiences, So my first rock concert, actually, I would been to a couple like kind of other concerts that weren't, you call them rock concerts. My actual first rock concert, and I'm surprised my parents actually let me go see it, but I think it was because of where it was. Now, this is Aerosmith. You can probably see, I don't know if you can, that'll show up on the still faded and everything.
All blurry. It's crap.
But
we'll trust you.
It's Aerosmith at the University of Dayton Arena in Dayton, Ohio. There was 2 places to go see concerts in Dayton. Now, one was called Hara Arena, and these aren't really in Dayton; they're kind of outside. Well, I guess the University of Dayton is in Dayton, but the Hara Arena wasn't in Dayton, but it was called Dayton. But anyway, Hara Arena, and that place had a bad reputation because some fights and stuff have been known to go on there. So my parents, though, let me, but University of Dayton's okay, I guess, because it's a University of Dayton arena, and nothing will go on there. You never heard of stuff going on there. So I went there, and of course, it was a whole different world back then. It was a concert in 1978. I was in 8th grade. I was probably about 13, I think. And whoa, walking in there, like people smoking everywhere and smoking marijuana. Oh my God. Smoking marijuana. How is this possible? People are going to get in trouble. What? And there's people on the, look on the floor. There's people in circle,
Well, did you know what marijuana was when you're?
I knew what it was, but I never really had experienced it.
See, I didn't know.
Yeah, and the first time I ever smelled it, I was like, wow, this.
I had no.
And to me, it smelled like, and of course it is. It smelled like burning leaves, and it is burning leaves, but
it smelled
like burning leaves.
Technically, yeah.
But anyway, so that was a whole new world. I mean, I thought for sure I was going to get beat up, because I was there by myself. None of my friends could go with me. So like I said, my parents let me go by myself. They didn't go in with me, which was kind of surprising. But I guess maybe they were, I don't know, they didn't want to deal with any of that. So went in there and I thought I was going to get beat up. But anyway, as far as the concert, the opening band was Golden Earring, and I don't really remember. I heard Radar Love, but I don't really remember Golden Earring too much because I think I was just so still and like, oh my God, what's just looking around me and seeing what's happening. And but this was Aerosmith. This would be the Draw the Line album that they were touring, and I think this was right before Live Bootleg came out. So Aerosmith themselves, they were great. I was a fan of theirs, and so they didn't disappoint me. I thought that was they were great. They were on fire. It was, I have no complaints about their performance. It was a great show. And then I remember getting a bootleg T-shirt in the parking lot for $5, and it was a 2-sided. It was two-sided. Yeah, it was better than the one they were selling inside, which only had the logo on it. So I was like, yes, okay. Got a bootleg T-shirt, which was in the '70s. And I don't know if they still have bootleg T-shirts when you go to shows now. I don't know. I haven't been
They
to a show
do.
for a while. Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't know if that
that's-
was still a thing. I imagine that they look a lot better than they did in the '70s and '80s, and because I imagine they
Well-
got the silk screening, but good. So
Yeah, but I remember this is going to be a tangent. You know, we're going to go on tangents because of
of
this.
course,
When I
I look
went my
forward to
first
it.
show, we might as well just keep this damn conversation loose. My first show was Foreigner and Foreigner 1978 Double Vision tour with Ambrosia opening up, and same thing. I bought my parents. We didn't know, we had no idea what they were. That the T-shirts in the parking lot were bootlegs.
Yeah.
And then we didn't even know they had shirts in there for sale. So we went, but the Foreigner shirt was freaking cool as shit. In fact, that bootleg shirt, I've seen reproductions where people have reproduced it, later in life because it was so good. It had a front and a back, and the band was on it. It looked cool and it looked a lot better than the shirts that the band was selling.
Yep.
But same kind
A
of
lot of
thing.
times,
I had
yeah.
no idea. Anyway.
Yeah, a lot of times, that would be it. So that was like pretty much my first concert experience was Aerosmith. And like I said, it was pretty wild. My second concert I got to go see was Boston, and Sammy Hagar was the opening band. Now, I never heard of Sammy Hagar before. And that was, of course, I was able to go to because at University of Dayton Arena, they were there. So I went go see, got to go see that show, I guess, and to go see Boston and how that they're kind of, at the time, you really didn't know they were going to be this band that never makes albums, but I'm glad I got to see them, and I got to see the original lineup. It was, who was all the original players that were on the first two albums, and then Sammy Hagar. I remember being really good. I guess I'd never really heard of him, but I was really impressed by him, and because I went out and got his albums afterwards, and what is it?
Was that Street Machine tour?
Street Machine, yeah, and then he had a live album too. I got not too long after that.
The 1980 live album.
Yeah. And so then since I sort of was a fan of Sammy Hagar, I followed him since then. And the other thing about that concert was that was the first time I ever smoked pot.
Oh my goodness, Elder.
Yeah, there was the guy sitting next to me, and he nudges me and he hands me a bowl, and he goes, "You want to try it?" I've never tried it, and he's like, "Oh, just go ahead, man. It's cool, and so I did. And
Elder's never
I
been
don't
the
know if I
same.
really felt anything or not. I don't know, but whatever. That was my first time doing that. And then the third concert I went to go see, again at University of Dayton Arena. It wasn't until 1980 when I got to see AC/DC on the Back in Black tour, when I got to go to a show at Heron Arena. But so I'm going to show you, and this is Rush. Kind of went over it in marker and stuff, and there's a reason for that, because if you see here, it says 113.
It looks like a Ticketron ticket.
It's a ticket. It's a Ticketron ticket. It says 113. That actually said 213.
No.
And I was like, I wanted to see if it would work. I was like, well, I might be taking a chance here. I might get thrown out of the show, or they may let me in, and they let me, and it worked. I got to go down further to see Rush. This was on the Permanent Waves tour. And it worked. I was surprised. I was like, wow. And I even had snuck, and I wish I could have found it, because I snuck even a little camera in. Now, this is a little crappy Polaroid camera, and not, that you have to go get the film developed. No flash on it or anything. I did take a couple pictures, and of course they look like it's Rush.
Uh-oh. Can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
Unplugged his microphone.
We've got technical issues, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry. So I know what you heard. but
Something about a Polaroid?
oh
Polaroid.
yeah. Sorry,
You
okay,
left off the camera.
So it's like, it was a little Polaroid, and then the pictures I got from it. I mean, I have them somewhere, but they, Rush looks like little tiny dots, and that was a lot of fun, though. That was a great time, and to kind of further my evolution, it's the first time I bought pot was at a Rush.
Oh my God.
Were you dealing by the next one?
Jesus.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, he had an opium network. He had a whole
It's my pot
a
evolution.
lab.
It's like Tony Montana down there.
Jesus.
But yeah, so there you go. So those are my first 3 concert experiences. And Rush was great. I didn't have all their albums at the time, but they played Cygnus X1. I didn't have Farewell to Kings, and so I went out and got Farewell to Kings right after that, because seeing them play Cygnus X1 was just wow, and I can't remember who the opening band was when I saw Rush, so I don't know. Can't remember who that was, but Rush, yeah, impressed.
Max
I was,
Webster?
and one of the most impressive things was like seeing Neil Peart's drum kit, like, right. I mean, I couldn't believe how massive it was and how many things he had, and seeing Geddy do the playing bass and keyboards. It was, I mean, they were great. They didn't disappoint me, and it was a great experience. So there you go. Those are my first 3.
And how soon was it till you
That's
started
awesome.
your own bootleg T-shirt business?
Oh yeah, that's right. I got a bootleg T-shirt from that. Yeah, right. Yeah, I bought a bootleg T-shirt from that show too. Yeah, it was a jersey. Actually, it was a jersey.
The people that were doing those, they did quality work.
Yeah.
So you washed them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah, you wash them once.
No, that Foreigner one lasted
But
forever. I think
I had a
ended
couple
up-
that lasted. Yeah, I had a couple bootlegs that lasted.
Now, I'm sure this whole panel did the same thing, but you remember when you were a kid and you'd go to these shows, you'd get that T-shirt the night before, and you wore it to school the next day.
You
You're
could tell
damn
how
right.
Wear your
popular.
colors
You could tell how.
proudly.
Yep, you could tell how popular the concert was. But if you go to school the next day, how many kids were wearing the shirts?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
And I got in
couldn't
trouble
wait.
for one of those.
I'll never
too.
forget REO Speedwagon and
High Infidelity.
High Infidelity. And so many kids in high school had that shirt on the next day after that show, and I was one of them.
But there was something about it, because I remember, I get this shirt, I'm going to wear it tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were like cool or something.
Oh, those were the days.
See, I had not going on a tangent here. I did the same thing, and I got in trouble in high school because I went to see Maiden for the No Prayer to Dying, and the Tail Gunner song there in the back, it said "Shoot that Fokker," Fokker,
Like the Fokkers?
the German airplane.
Yeah.
And
Fokker.
but the O had 2 bullet holes on top of it, so it looked like a U. And then, of course, me and my friends going to wear that in school, and then
no.
I get told I have to go home and change. And I'm like, but it's a German airplane, sir. Don't give me that. Get out of here.
You know what it means, kid.
Fine.
That reminds me, because I had the Aerosmith shirt that said "Night in the Ruts," but it crossed out. It says "Right in the Nuts," and I wore that to school. And I remember teachers going,
Well, yeah, the guy.
I never got, but I remember teachers looking at me funny, like with that one.
Yeah, that.
See, I get told to go home, but there's a guy that had at Guns N' the Guns N' Roses was here with the big thing coming out.
Oh yeah,
The topless
The band
girl.
cover.
Yeah.
He gets told, don't wear that again. But I get told, go home and change. I was like, as you can see, I'm still very bitter about it. But
Bitter. Angry. All
Yeah.
right, cool. All right, let's go over to David. I can hardly wait to see what he did at these damn concerts. Good Lord.
Yeah,
The
I don't
elder's
know that
breaking
I
the law. He's
I'm
dealing
Sorry,
drugs.
I don't know if I have as good as stories, but
had a stint in rehab after that. No,
He was in rehab.
it's gonna be tough to follow up. So, my first concert was, I'm 14, so probably the same time frame as a lot of guys in terms of age. And, for those that have been on panels with me when we talked about, foundational bands or first three bands, everybody knows that sort of Bon Jovi was a band that sort of was my entry point and this would have been 86, and I'm starting to learn to play guitar. And, so that was my first show, was the Slippery When Wet tour. Have been June of 87. Have been 14, local shed here in Southern California, which is no longer around, but saw a ton of shows there. Cinderella opened up. It's funny, as I think about these, they were on their first tour, and Bon Jovi brought them out. So the Night Songs record's out, and they're opening. And the interesting thing is I thought back and was pulling these ticket stubs out and everything. And I remember more how I felt than what and then some of the details. The details have now, having been to so many concerts, some of the details are fuzzy, but the feelings of those first rock shows, going to seeing those bands you like, and the energy and the feeling of being in that space is
finally seeing them on stage live in front of you for the first time.
It's all happening, it's all there. And the feelings of it really came back more than the details. So I'm like, was that show or that show? Like, when did that happen? Some of the details are fuzzy, but this one was significant because it was one of my first dates. My dad had to drive and pick up my date, and I went with a friend, and he had a date, and we went together. And so that, that was, significant as well. But so Bon Jovi, at our local shed here, Irvine Meadows, June of 87 with Cinderella. And so then the sort of the floodgates open for me, right? It's all the music and the rock. It's happening in the local metal radio station here, KNAC. And then, of course, Headbangers Ball's happening on MTV and the videos. That's how I'm getting stuff. So then the next show for me is fast forward February of 88. So it's just a few months later. And then I go to see at the famous Long Beach Arena, Aerosmith, and they're touring the Permanent Vacation record. So I got floor seats, and again, I think similar in stories, I think that's the first time I really got a good whiff of the marijuana. Maybe because the Bon Jovi show was Bon Jovi 1 and 2 was open air. This one was inside the arena, and so gets cloudy quick, right? So floor seats. I remember it being really good show. I was really into Aerosmith. Dokken opened up. They were on the Back for the Attack tour. I was a big fan of Dokken. So this was I was getting two bands that I really, really liked, on stage. There's Joe Perry and there's George, and all this is, all in one night. And this was a really great show. I'm looking at $17.50 is what I paid for this ticket. The interesting thing about this show is I remember details. There was an older, now probably not super old, but certainly older than my 15-year-old, but sitting behind me, and she was very friendly. So I'm like, I think I like these rock shows. She's, very handsy and really in the moment. So I was like, this is really cool. And never happened again, but I mean, I think that was a good time. I was never
went to rock concerts now, hoping for that experience.
So handsy in a good way, then.
Never again was I groped by a unknown woman at a show. Dozens of shows later, but I will hold on to that one memory from Aerosmith.
Still chasing that dragon.
1988. I'll take that.
You guys are thugs, man. All the trouble you're getting at these concerts, man.
And
Dave thought he couldn't compete with the Elder.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Shit's happened with Dave.
I don't know.
I got the drugs. He got the sex.
All I ever got was rock and roll.
That's all I ever got was rock and roll.
So my third concert was just a month later, March of 1988. So by this time, I'm full blown Kiss freak, and Kiss comes to town. I know, and so they're touring Crazy Nights, which I'm unknown to me is not a high point in their career, but for me, I'm just getting into the band, and and so I go there and I buy tickets from a third party so I can so I'm in the third row, and for me it was this magical experience. Anthrax opened, which was sort of an odd pairing. I liked Anthrax; it was cool, but having Anthrax, I think they were touring Among the Living, and having them open for Kiss was odd. But in retrospect, it was not well attended. There's very little information about this show. March 26th, 88. Even in some of the Kiss guys that have researched this stuff in the books. There's really not a lot of information, but by all accounts, it wasn't super well attended. They weren't drawing very well. They had this album out that they had spent 2 years making and waited for a producer and wasn't, reaching the success that they had planned. So it was really sort of a low point. But for me, it was a really great show. I enjoyed it a ton. It was my first time seeing Kiss, my heroes out there up on stage. It wasn't a long show. I mean, I looked at the set list at 13, 14 songs plus all their goofy solos. So probably 75 to 90 minutes at best. So it wasn't long. I remember it ending and being like having this feeling of that's it. Like it just happened. So it went by so fast. I was all into it. And then it was like the end, what happened, and so it was a very short concert. The one memorable thing about that concert, I was third row center and I did catch a drumstick that day.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Drumstick. I never caught another drum, just like the girl at Aerosmith. I never caught another drumstick. Maybe because there was only 7 people at that show. I didn't have a competition, but I did get my one and only caught in the air drumstick that night. I got a second weird thing. I must have been right in Eric Carr's like fire zone because he's doing the solo. This was like the beginning of the solo. There's a standard stick that he played probably on the song leading into the solo. He throws those out, and I get it. And then he's doing the solo with these fluorescent sticks. I think they were orange, fluorescent. He throws those out right at me again. I catch it, and I get tackled by a dude like 3 times. I was not expecting. And they beat me up and took the stick. So I don't have that. But I did. I physically removed it from my hand. But I do have this one. So
that drumstick looks like it has a tan line.
That one. No girls, but I got beat up for a drumstick. But
so far,
did get the first one.
I mean, if we're in a competition, we've got the elder breaking laws, selling drugs.
Hey, I'm not selling.
Oh, I know. I'm joking. Doing drugs. But Dave's get Eric Carr's drumstick. He's getting fondled by women. You're winning.
Well, I don't know. Those guys coming up probably have some pretty good stories. So those are my 3. So, yeah.
Freaking Eric Carr's drumstick, though.
That's good. Yeah.
That's good.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen. We should have a poll on this. Whose story is the best?
Tell us.
I wouldn't do that. But that's all, man. Wow. Here I was impressed with counterfeit T-shirts there for a while. All right, cool. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. All right, All right, Butch. I'm ready for
Butch,
sex.
let's see what you got. You got any stories about dames? You're seeing?
Yeah. Yeah, my first concert. I was pre-gaming at Studio 54 with Raquel Welch. See,
Nice.
We did a bunch of lines off of David Bowie's back. See,
Well, that's pretty exciting.
I do not have stories to match up with those, but my first concert was June 16th of 84. I was 13. It was the Scorpions with Bon Jovi opening. Love at First Sting tour. And my mother would not, I was like, this was the age where my mother was just starting to let go and let me do some things like that. But the only way she let me go to this concert was if she had this friend, my mom had this friend, Ronnie, whose daughter, Dawn, used to sit for my mom, like when she would be out for the night with my stepdad, or they'd go out of town, or so Dawn was in her early 20s, I think. And she'd only let me go if I said, well, how about if Dawn took me to the show? So my mom ponied up, got the tickets for us, and Dawn took me to the show. And it was awesome, man. I mean, it's like David was saying, I couldn't give you too many specifics about the show other than, first of all, it's at the Allentown Fairgrounds in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it's an outdoor like fairground kind of thing. They got the freaking the stage, the band shell thing is already set up out there, and then it was all standing room on the ground, and then there was a grandstand in the back that was just like straight across. It didn't bend around like some of the places do. It was just like, we sat up in the bleachers in the grandstand, and it was cool, man. I was just excited to be there, like to be at a show. And there were, I liked both bands, especially the Scorpions at the time. I did like Runaway a lot. I love that first Bon Jovi record. They were great. And then the lights go down for the Scorpion before the Scorpions come on, and then you can see the drum riser just kind of like ticking up in the air a little bit while the lights are out, and then they got that little drone intro going, and it was like fog is pouring out on the stage from underneath, and then the lights come on under the drums, and the dudes are all standing under the drum riser, and they come zipping out, open with and I just thought it was so cool, like anything moving on a stage at that point, because I was a Kiss fan, but I'd only ever seen like nothing in terms of like live footage other than like what you'd see on MTV. So to be at a show and see, like, I love shit like that, like these drums going up, and then the lights are even silhouetting the guys, and the fog's coming out, and they just come ripping and running out, and they're running around, and Klaus Mein's a nutcase, and it was great. I mean, it's like the Worldwide Live show. I mean, that's what I saw pretty much. I remember we bolted a little bit early though. Like Dawn wanted to get out. They were doing, it was the last song they were doing. It was that Can't Get Enough. And then they were in the middle of it. They do that. On the record, they call it Six String Sting. And she's like, they're just jamming. Let's get out of here. And so, but it was awesome. I mean, it was a great first show. There's a boot out there. I'm pretty sure I found one on YouTube, the audio of the show. So it was weird. It was cool to, like, it's an audience recording. It doesn't sound great, but to relive it was pretty neat. If I could find video of it, that'd be even better. But you know how it is, that time period, that's hard to come by because of the way things were. So no sex and drugs for me at that show, though.
So did Rudolph take his flying V? And if I remember right, when I saw him, it was like a mirrored flying V, and he took it and threw it way up in the sky. Well, up in the sky. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. When I was 13,
I'm sure he did.
Threw it to heaven, and it came back down. No, but he threw way up in the air, and he caught it and just started. Did he do that when you saw him? Because that seemed to be his thing.
I'm sure. I can't remember too many specifics about it.
I still have that burned into my brain, Butch.
I'm sure if there's videos of them doing that stuff back then, they did it though. Like I remember, I swear there was a point during that last when they were playing Can't Get Enough where one of them was like kind of like up on the stacks on the side a little bit playing guitar. They were great though. I mean, Klaus Meine it was the first of like 3 times I saw them, and they've always been 3 or 4. They've always been great live band. It was a great show to start with. Second show came November of '84 that year. It was November 15th, first date of the Kiss Animalized tour. Kiss and Queensryche at Stabler Arena, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. This one, I had 2 tickets for the show, and I think one of my friends backed out on me. So my mom, and this was a show my mom was just going to drop me off at Stabler with my friend, but my friend backed out, and for a second there, I was a little bit scared. She wasn't going to let me go because she didn't want me going by myself, but I was able to get another friend to go along. I'm like, hey, go see Kiss. Let's go see Kiss. He's all right. So she just dumps us off at the front of the arena. And we used to do this thing with shirts, man. Like I did buy bootlegs back then, but at this time not. But I would go into the concerts, and I always got my shirt on the way in. I'd stop at the merch stand. I'd get it. I'd put it right on, right over top of whatever I was wearing. And then I wore it to school the next day too. But we were straight back from the stage. Stabler Arena holds about 6,000 people, I think. So we were like in the bleach, like in the not on the floor, but the first level of seating. Straight back, great view. And Kiss was my favorite band in the world. I mean, I was so excited for the show, and they were awesome. Like it's the energy of that Animalized Live Uncensored. That's the show.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were running around like crazy people. Everything was like 100 miles an hour back then. They had Eric playing the drums really fast for everything. But I was like, first of all, they played really well. And I guess at the time, the only thing that it didn't bum me out because I was just into the band. Like in retrospect, at the time, they didn't play as much old stuff. I think there were like 5 70 songs. It was like Detroit, Cold Gin, Black Diamond, Rock and Roll All Night, and Love Gun were the only like old songs. And everything else was like Heaven's on Fire, Lick It Up, Fits Like a Glove. Everything, again, the set list from... And man, they were awesome. And it was like, as a fan, like just seeing some of the stuff, like the and even though this is like stripped down for them compared to what they did in the 70s, like some of it just blew my mind. Like at the end of the show when they're doing Black Diamond, the part of the light rig came down and they go, Gene, Paul, and Bruce go up this for, I don't know, man, I'd be scared to death like doing this, but like, you know, go up the ramp to the top of the lighting rig, and then that starts coming down, and they're on the rig and they're playing. I didn't even realize at the time I was like this many years old, like literally 53 or 54, just within the last year. My buddies like, you realize they were playing Beck's Bolero during that?
What?
They
really?
During Black Diamond, as they're coming down on the thing, they squeezed in part of Beck's Bolero on it. Watch the Live Uncensored thing and watch Black Diamond and listen to it. There's a piece in the middle of it where they're coming down on the lights. And
are you talking about the da-da-da-da-da-da?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
I love that part, but what is that?
Beck's Bolero.
It's 6:39 p.m. That's when I just found out what that is. So
me too. Yeah, I didn't know that's what that was.
I've never even connected it. But they were awesome. Like a lot of like bombs and smoke, and Paul Stanley at the time was, to me at 13 years old, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like that dude like has said in interviews over the years since that he felt he had to keep up with what the other singers were doing. So he was swearing like crazy, like, and you know, the whole stuff now that I'm in retrospect isn't the most tasteful, like the intro to Love Gun that he would do on stage, like just the way that he interacted with the crowd, like it made an impression on me, and they were awesome. It was, and Queensryche was great that night too. I had just a couple weeks before I'd gone out and gotten The Warning, and I bought Dress to Kill too. Bought both records, and I love that Queensryche record. They were great. Man, I was so glad to see them on that tour. So that was a great show. Great second show. And then my last one, the last of the 3 was again in February. And again, this was, I don't know why at this point, my mom, I guess I didn't have that many friends into Triumph at the time, but I wanted to go see Triumph. So again, she had Dawn go with me. And it was Triumph and Pat Travers. It was February 1st of 85, Stable Arena in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. They were on the Thunder 7 tour. And it was great. The weird thing about the show is, like, I didn't know who the hell Pat Travers was at the time. So it's kind of like this opening act comes on. I like knew the name from somewhere, but I probably from a radio ad. I'd heard the name, but I didn't know Boom Boom Out Go the Lights or Snorting Whiskey or any of that stuff. I'd maybe seen a video on MTV for something from one of those 80s records, but I remember the set was for whatever reason, La La Means I Love You stuck out in the set. I remember thinking that the title was funny when he introduced it, but they were good. I don't remember them being bad. I just don't remember much about it because I didn't know their stuff at all, so it didn't sit as well as like years later when I knew who Pat Travers was. I actually got more acquainted with his music through, there was a band in Allentown called How To, Greg Howe's band, that he had with his brother, and they used to play Snort Whiskey and Boom Boom all the time. And so anyway, that's beside the point. Travers was cool, but I didn't know his stuff, so it wasn't like a big deal for me to see him. But Triumph was awesome. First of all, I love that record, and you know, their show was like, it's all about the lights and stuff with them, and the smoke, you know, the bombs and stuff. I mean, they were just a great live band, like just a huge light show, but the playing was like unbelievable. Rick Emmett, Gilmore, both singing their asses off. Man, in the middle of the show, they had a big black curtain hanging in the middle of the arena, and then they had the laser thing come out that had which at the time was really cool. I mean, it had like the dude from the cover of the record, like, and it would change, it'd flip around, and the guy with all the with all the arms and stuff and it was a really good show. I mean, the set list was great. Just think about the span of records they're pulling from for that one. So they covered the bases from the Rock and Roll Machine album up through Thunder 7. Great set list, Spellbound and Fight the Good Fight. And Fight the Good Fight, man, when the Triumph sign, the light up Triumph sign came up behind them, man, it was really cool. I mean, I'm so glad I got to see Triumph because they didn't come to Allentown, I think, but that one time. A lot of bands came to Allentown and Bethlehem, but most bands for sure hit Philly and the Spectrum, but not everyone came to Allentown and Bethlehem over the end. So Triumph, I think that was my only opportunity to see them in that area where I grew up, and I'm glad I did because I love them, and that was a great show. I wish I could go back and relive all of these shows, to be honest with you. But I didn't have sex or drugs in any of them, so we got offered it. It came around at one of the shows Dawn took me to. I think it was Iron Maiden. Like, someone was passing stuff, and she's just like, "Don't touch it." And at the same one, some guy's like throwing a bag to his buddy. They had components to record the show. Like, the one guy brought in a microphone and the other guy had the other piece, and the guy's like taping shit up, and the guy's like catches the bag, and he's plugging all this stuff together and taping it to the
wow.
What the hell? That's crazy.
Yeah. That was the other thing. Yeah. That was the other thing about concerts back in the day. I was going to say that one of the other things I remember was people throwing frisbees.
Yeah, beach balls, man, were big on the inside.
Beach balls are always fun.
And
here's what I love too about the Allentown Fairgrounds, like that bandstand that they had, like there was a huge parking lot behind it, but they had it all like fenced off too. So there was a fence within the parking lot. You couldn't get to the backstage area, but you could park back there. So there's a big fence going all the way across. And every freaking show, there'd be some drunk, like security. You'd see it, like one or two drunk assholes would the security guys would just toss them over the fence because before the show would even start. It's like, and by the way, these concerts I paid $12, $13 for tickets. Yeah. And last thing, real quick, about bootleg shirts. Monsters of Rock in like 88, whatever it was, 88. Mm-hmm. That show, we bought, all my buddies and I bought bootleg shirts from some guy on the road, like they were selling them. And it took me like 2 weeks to figure out the Van Halen logo was, the VH was reversed. It said HV.
There you go.
Now that shirt's worth a fortune.
I wish I still had it.
Van Halen.
Yeah. So those are my three.
Okay.
I was gonna say my ticket for this Rush concert was $8.50. So
damn.
Wow.
Cool.
I don't think I've ever gotten fondled at a concert by someone that's not my wife. So
it definitely hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
No,
we all can't be like David. All right, cool. Dan. All right.
So I'm a little more of a late bloomer than you guys for first concerts, but mine was, I was 17. Okay, I'm not going to count a concert that my parents brought me at 10 there, but 1989, December 20-something. I just brought props here. So my first concert ever was Alice Cooper Trash with opener Great White.
There you go.
And I only had this album and Raise Your Fist and Yell. And I'm like, I need some more albums. So I was just like, I got my tickets. So I'm buying new albums. I think I only bought Killer, $1 Billion Babies, and what was the other one? Anyway, there's a reason. Oh, maybe Love It to Death. Yeah. And and I had important to the story here was the Alice Cooper show. I had the cassette of that. So I'm like, all right, let's go see Alice Cooper. So this is my first time, and I'm very naive back then there. And I remember, not that there was a drug story, but again, I was very naive at the time. And I remember telling my friend, oh my God, this guy the guy beside me is like offering me some pot here. And my friend's like, just shut up. My friend beside me just offered me the same thing. So I was like, so that's pretty much the drugs story for that. But I remember being in line for the trash and like getting into the arena, which was the Ottawa Civic Center here. And I don't know if it was a religious group or whatever, but they were passing out pamphlets about, this is 1989 here. And we're like reading this. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what is this? And so yeah, first concert ever. And we did not like Great White. I'm still not a big fan of these guys, but we were like, that was like our running gag was Great White at the time. And Trash, the tour, I enjoyed it, but we didn't understand because my friend had seen Iron Maiden before, but for me, my first concert was Trash. Alice doesn't speak to the crowd.
Right.
And my friend was like, we don't understand this. Like, what is this guy? Like, why is he not talking to the crowd? And, but he did say something at the end of the concert, which was there's a reason why I was saying about those little pamphlets that they were handing out where the guy's like, good night, blah, blah, and don't believe everything you read about me, and you're all trash. And I was like, okay, that was different. And I never heard anybody or him saying that at other concerts after. But the funny thing is like I said, I had the Alice Cooper show cassette, and I didn't have the album School's Out, which is important to this year, because I'm listening to the concert at the end. Of course, he ends with School's Out. And I was brand new with Alice Cooper. Like I said, I had the 2 albums, and I was starting to get used to the other ones. And I'm like, there's a second verse to School's Out. What the hell is this here? Because I don't know if you heard the version on the Alice Cooper show. It's a shortened version of School's Out. And I was like, oh my God, there's a second verse on this song. So I was that kind of, and of course, of all songs, School's Out was like hugely popular. But like I said, I was living under a rock before that. So yeah, first one here was Great White. And, and I remember the general admission was getting a little bit rowdy, and they were threatening to cancel the concert if nobody was going to start behaving. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to miss my first concert. And my friend's like, relax, they're not going to cancel for that. So yeah, that was my first one, which was Alice Cooper, Trash is the World. That was it. Now my second one was probably like a month or so later on, was in the 90s. I know that. I don't have the album, but I do have the opener. So it was Paul Lane, back in the Doriana days. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but the headliner was Joe Satriani for Flying in a Blue Dream. So that was my second show ever, but it was a smaller venue. It was like, we called it, sorry, fighting a cold, guys, there.
Aren't we all?
Flying in a Blue Dream. And for someone who doesn't have I did have albums at the time. It's just not for me. They're instrumental music. But that was the one album that he sang, Flying in a Blue Dream. But I do remember, like I said, Doriana is very vague. Like Paul Lane there, very vague. But I do remember us freaking out when we saw it was Stu Ham on bass. And Jonathan Mover was the drummer for Joe Satriani. And I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't he the drummer on the friggin' Trash tour? And of course it was. Same exact drum solo. That's how I recognized him. When you only heard 2 drum solos in your life, you're like, wait a minute, wasn't that the same drum solo I saw at Trash?
But that's anyway, how all drum solos are? Does every drummer?
Yeah, exactly. And But it wasn't Joe Satriani that fascinated me. It was Stu Ham, because he played that the Peanuts.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys must know what it is now,
Peanuts,
but back then I had never heard. Well,
Peanuts
I
theme
heard
the
it on the
bass.
cartoon.
That's
And then I was like, oh my god, that was like the coolest thing, was seeing that bass solo. So, but I'm not a Joe Satriani fan. I was going with friends, so I was kind of like, it was Joe Satriani was their guy. I was like, okay, I loved my Alice Cooper experience. I was like, okay, I'm sold. I want to go see concerts now. So that was my second one, but it's not my main one. Now, we've talked about Kiss, my first time ever seeing Kiss. Now, kids, if you're watching this and you're in charge of tickets, do not buy more than 4 tickets, okay? I somehow had I was supposed to buy everybody's tickets. We were 8, okay? We were sitting up in the friggin' toilets upstairs. So it was, and I'll show you here, 1990. You probably see where I'm going with this here, but first time seeing Kiss was the Hot in the Shade tour.
Great tour.
Opening bands, Slaughter and Winger. To me, this was like the perfect show. Well, there's a reason I'm mentioning these 8 tickets and not buying them, because we were sitting so far up, and we were able to see the band on the stage, but Eric Carr in the background we weren't able to see because there was these big speakers in the way. And I was like, okay, whatever. And as opposed to Crazy Nights, they played a lot more older songs on that tour. And one sec. It wasn't until the day after, where at school, I don't know if you guys remember these Kodak disc cameras, which was like super thin. That was easy to bring to a concert and not get detected. Those, yeah. One guy brought some pictures, and he's like, and I was like, there was a Sphinx? I'm like, where? Because of the speakers, I was not able to see, we were not able to see the Sphinx. But song-wise, Slaughter was very good. Winger, probably the best drum solo I've ever seen live, was Rod Morgenstein. That was in the Heart of the Young tour. Loved Winger at the time. And seeing Kiss for the first time, that was a great show. And I'm glad they added it in the those DVDs there. There's a show of Hot in the Shade. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get to see the Sphinx. And that was huge, like huge. But again, it just shows you, like, I was the angle we were at, and then my friend's like, "Oh yeah, that Sphinx was great." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I mean, I saw little bits and parts of it, but what was cool, and I did see this, was everybody was like, Kiss is known for having the big Kiss logo in the back, and we're like, "Where the hell is the Kiss logo?" Like during the whole show, I mean, you could see in between the speakers that there was something there. I just couldn't tell you what. And then I think it was I Want You in the encore where they're playing, and then bombs are going nuts. And then you could, well, I know it now because I saw it on YouTube or on that DVD. The Sphinx is going down back the stage, and then the friggin' Kiss logo is coming up. And I was like, okay, that part I saw, but that was so friggin' cool. But everybody's like, yeah, that was the first time I've seen a Kiss concert without the Kiss logo being in the background, like for like the longest time. So it was great hearing Kiss for the first time or seeing them on the stage. But yeah, never again am I buying 8 tickets all side by side. It's like, hey Dan, give me a ticket. I was like, okay, like, yeah, 4 now is my limit, and we've learned our lesson for that there. But my God, great show, but I guess too bad I never got to see the Sphinx, which was. But it's the guy at school the next day. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I saw something, but I did, and you could, like, he opened his mouth, the Sphinx, and he's got this little laser, like, kind of him talking during God of Thunder. So yeah, it's at 89 to, and I've made up for it since a lot. But yeah, I was a very late bloomer. My parents, well, my mom would not let me go see concerts because it was a school night or whatnot. If it was a weekend, maybe. But yeah, it's I was a very late bloomer for concerts. So yeah, those are my three. Sorry, no drugs or sex stories apart from.
Jeez.
Kind of letting me down, Dan.
Sorry,
your mom- That's why
I
your mom
never-
wasn't letting you go. Was because of people like me and David there. You had sex and drugs, you know.
What I have learned though is I'm not going to ask you to buy tickets to
Oh,
the concert for me.
hello.
Look,
Uh-oh.
Philip's here, and we're done.
Yeah, cool.
Timing's
Well,
everything, Philip.
Huh?
You forgot the time
We're
change.
done. We just ended.
Oh, fuck's sake. I can't believe
This
it.
is a classic moment.
You had daylight savings.
Yes, yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Seriously.
Well, if you can go fast, because we're already at an hour,
We did our three. Yeah, we actually did our three. So
Yeah, let's hear it, Philip.
go ahead. You're here now. You might as well go.
might as well go.
You're
we
kidding
already-
me, right?
And I'm not going to mention
No.
mine. I've already mentioned mine before.
Right. Well, I need to give
Well,
a
there you
disclaimer,
go.
obviously.
Go,
I need to-
Philip. You're up.
I need to give I need to give a disclaimer, obviously, because I live in Europe and we didn't do daylight savings.
No
You guys
excuses.
in the US did.
Here, I'm just going to remove him off the panel, ladies and gentlemen. Give me a moment.
There
Seriously?
better be sex and drugs in
okay.
these stories.
Yeah,
Okay,
It's
Philip.
good. You're
like
here.
shirts.
Wow. Wow.
Might as well go
okay.
ahead and do it.
Okay, I'm just saying again, I live in Europe, right? So things are different here. Just so that people don't think I look really stupid. Okay. Wow. So first three concert experiences, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is where I get to show my age. And I think I'm actually
Oh, we've all got you beat.
So,
Philip,
oh, yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
Yeah, don't worry about
I'm
that.
actually the youngest here. Fancy that. So
He always
19
likes to throw that up, ladies and gentlemen, that he's always the youngest.
Yeah. So 1998, quite some time ago, almost 30 years ago, I was 14 going on 15, and my eldest cousin took me to Athens to see Iron Maiden on the 4th of September. It was a Friday. This is the ticket stub right here.
Oh wow.
Wow, look at that. Looks like
That's
a
huge.
bag of
fancy.
chewing tobacco. I don't know.
It's
Wow,
fancy.
look at that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's, of course, as you can tell, it's from the Virtual 11 tour. So basically, probably the worst album by Iron Maiden ever to be recorded. And of course, I was 14 going on 15, so I was becoming a metalhead, and I was a big fan of Iron Maiden. It was like my number one band, like most young people at that time. And yeah, for me, it was a big deal to be able to go to Athens, to the capital city, and to see my favorite band. My cousin made sure to take me to the tallest spot of this ancient theater where they were playing, so I could barely even see anything. But nevertheless, it was a very moving experience for me, and I still have the ticket stub. And as you can see, tickets in Greece have really nice design on them.
Man.
They still do. While over here, what I get is just like a print, and it looks boring and, not a collector's item. So, okay, so yeah, Iron Maiden, Blaze Bayley on vocals. The guy did a decent job. He tried, and within his vocal range, you could say he did a good job. But to be honest, it's not really great hearing a song like "Hallowed Be Thy Name" by Blaze Bayley. So, okay, fair enough. Then next year in 1999, I got to go to Greece's major festival at the time, rock metal festival, the Rockwave Festival. Now, I normally wouldn't have gone. I was probably 15 at the time, 15 going on 16. But I had a few friends from like my circle who were going, and they told me to come and join them. I would have gone normally to the metal day where Manowar were playing and the black metal band Immortal. Now, I never really liked Manowar. I definitely don't like Immortal. I never didn't like them back then. But I said, hey, let's go to the days where they're playing like the sort of pop bands. And I thought, it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. Why not? Let's go see some pop bands. So on the 14th of July, 1999, I got to see some of these guys here.
Oh my!
Oh, Patti Smith,
Garbage.
that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow!
I got to
Fun
see
Criminals, my God.
the Scottish, I think they're Scottish, right? The Scottish pop band Garbage, who were a huge sensation at the time with songs like I Think I'm Paranoid, which was a huge hit.
Mhm.
They were pretty cool.
Well,
Of course, all eyes were on the singer. I don't remember her name right now, but
Shirley Manson.
thank you. Yes, she was quite something at the time. I saw Patti Smith. I didn't know who she was at the time. I learned later that she is a legend. I saw bands like Fun Lovin' Criminals and Terror Vision, but the main thing was Garbage, basically. And I also got to see on the third day of this festival some of these bands here. You can see this very
Blur, Mercury Rev.
Placebo.
tickets to Mercury
Look
Rev.
at you!
Mercury Rev, yeah, imagine, right? I'm like someone who talks about prog and metal and stuff, and I went and saw these pop bands, but I had no idea. I just went for the hype,
Mercury,
and
I
it
think
was really
Mercury
fun and
Rev's a
cool.
shoegaze band.
Oh, right. Fancy that. No, I had no idea. At the time, I was just like, let's just go and see, just go have fun. And I saw Placebo, and I had heard at the time their album Without You I'm Nothing, which had a few massive hits at the time. And I recall being so knocked out by the end of Placebo, like so tired. I just went to sit down like by the bleachers during Blur, who were the headliners. But I remember this, I was so dead tired while they were playing their famous hit song 2, the one that goes, woo-hoo.
Yeah.
I actually fell asleep. That's just how tired I was. And my friend woke me up and he's like, dude, they're playing song 2, the big hit. Everyone knows this one. So yeah, those were my 3 first concert experiences. There you go.
Wow!
So no tales of sex or drugs, huh?
Yeah, you
I-
missed
I-
it, Philip.
You'll have to watch the
Listen,
show
I
later.
was-
Then you have to watch
I
the
was
show on the
between 14
Groping.
and 16, between 14 and 16, and I was a good mama's boy. They allowed me to go to the capital city to like a big festival without any concerns about, I don't know, violence or fire or I don't know what. So, drugs out of the question. Sex. I was very unpopular.
for
as a kid.
Maiden.
Drugs? No, I don't do drugs. I never did drugs. Well, just
Elder
the
never did either,
usual, the usual,
Yeah, right?
the usual innocuous
as far as I know.
drugs.
Yeah, I know that.
I
That's
mean,
it.
all right, cool. Wow.
Yeah, thank you
Good
for
stuff.
thank you for letting me participate and talk about my
Of
experiences.
course.
Even though I forgot about the
Yeah, no
change
big
of
deal.
back in the US. Yeah,
Marco didn't say that to anybody in the
I think it's because I am one of the
Patreon.
few, maybe the only European. I don't know.
Well,
No.
we have an Australian somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's not yours,
And don't forget, the parish. The parish is
Oh yeah, he's in
Yeah.
England, which qualifies in my mind as Europe. So
yeah.
Doesn't
Still
doesn't
think they're part of
Indiana
Europe.
not have is the only state that doesn't have the
I
daylight
thought it was
saving?
Arizona or something. I don't know.
One
Yeah,
of those
not-
states, part of the state, one of them, either Indiana or Illinois, has daylight
Yeah.
savings time, like
Indiana.
in part of the state, but the other part of the state doesn't.
Yeah, something like that. It's weird.
So dumb. I think we should.
and they keep
I'm
and they
not
keep
even
saying,
sure what the point is. Oh, the kids going to school.
Well, they keep
they're not
saying that,
walking in the dark.
every time it comes around, you keep hearing, "Oh, we're going to do away with it," and then of course it still keeps going. There's going to be some bill passed. We're going to do away with daylight savings. It's outdated, but of course it always comes up, and we still do it.
it's like Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
All right, cool. There you go. You got a full panel tonight. I want to thank the panel
Awesome.
night, Dan, Butch. We're going to call him Butch.
But
Sure. Philip, David, and then the Elder of Rock. We want to hear about your first 3 concert experiences. Please let us know down in the comment section. We want to know because that's the way we are here on the Contrarians. We just want to know about your life.
We want to
So
know
anyway.
about the drugs and the sex. See,
That's right.
Stop with
I
names.
guess I'll be catching up on the replay.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
quite
you
a
have to-
discussion.
later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to see the
So-
replay.
You know the whole
That'd be
routine.
fine.
We have a Patreon. I get tired of going through the whole thing. We have a Patreon. We have a what's the other thing we have?
Coffee.
Elder, come on.
Yeah, a cup of coffee.
Yeah. What the hell is that thing
Or a
called?
pint.
Buy us a
Kofi?
pint or a cup of coffee. Kofi.
Kofi, yeah, Kofi.
Kofi.
I have a cold. Well, actually, I just got off COVID, and my
Oh.
foot is killing me. So
COVID, coffee.
I'm not in good shape. I think I'm on my way out. I could be.
Well, that's a happy
Oh,
thought.
boy.
Thanks for leaving us
Wow.
with a happy thought.
Well,
I'm falling apart.
Yeah, see you next week or not.
you know,
Maybe. I wouldn't hold my breath. So we have a Patreon. If you'd like to support us that way, please do. We have a Ko-fi. Buy us a pint or a cup of coffee. That'd be great. We like donations. We just like money in general. Because we do these shows out of the kindness of our hearts. It's not like we're trying to change the world. We're just trying to change the world musically and turn you on to stuff. That's all Contrarians really is about. So anyway, we're glad Philip got here. Hey, better late than never. We'd never turn you away. So anyway, leave a comment. We will see you on the next one. And everybody keep it clean, unlike this show. All right. See you, everybody.
Thanks,
do drugs.
guys.
Gentlemen.
don't do drugs.
Yeah.